Salutations everyone, and welcome to my video about a computer that I built about a month ago.
Now, as many of us do, I had an urge to build a computer, but I didn't really need one, and the current market is not really good for many of the components, especially GPUs. But I did have some parts lying around that I wanted to sell for some extra cash, but rather than sell each part individually, I wanted to just make a whole system. And with that, I built this computer as a result and had a great time picking out the parts and then buying them and then assembling them, as well as testing and then selling them.
Now, let's get into the components.
For the CPU, I was originally going to go with a Ryzen 1600 AF, which is the 12 nanometer version of the original Ryzen 1600, which was 14 nanometers, and it performs very similar to a 2600 but at a lower cost. But I found a really good deal on a 2600X, and it was slightly pricier than the 1600 AFs that I was seeing, but it does have slightly higher clocks and should overclock better due to being a bin processor and help it kind of age less compared to the 1600 AF. And for the cooler, I had a Wraith Spire, which is the bigger one of the plain stock AMD coolers that I got from a buddy, and I wanted to put it into use because it's a pretty decent stock cooler, especially for getting it for free, and I didn't need it. For the motherboard, I chose the ASRock B450M Pro 4 because from what I researched, it had all the features and connections that I wanted, and it also came with good VRMs that can support the 3000 series and even the 5000 series processors, and could even do a bit of overclocking. Now, you won't be able to overclock a 5950X or a 5900X on this board, but it can definitely support the 2600X that's in there, and I also got it for a really good price. For the RAM, I wanted fast RAM that was compatible with the 2600X and the B450M Pro 4, since Ryzen feasts on faster RAM, but I know the 2600X and B450 boards can't do the really high RAM speeds. So I managed to score a pair of Team Group T-Force 8GB sticks that go up to 3200 MHz, and I was able to get up to 3200 MHz, which really allowed the 2600X to spread its wings and take off. For the all-important graphics card, I fortunately had an EVGA GTX 1060 6GB card that was originally in a Dell Optiplex build that I made years ago, but it wasn't really being used anymore. And rather than try and just sell the card on eBay and add to the already many listings there, I wanted to make a whole system and have the card be used in a gaming PC. When you're on a budget, I find that for storage, a boot SSD and hard drive combo will work wonders. For the SSD, I chose a Team Group MS30 M.2 256GB. I find that 256 gigs is a sweet spot when it comes to price and capacity. Although it is SATA 3 and not NVMe, the price at around $30 made it a steal. And for the hard drive, I chose a Hitachi Ultrastar 2TB with 7200 RPM speed and 64 megabytes of cache. It may not perform as well as the very popular Seagate Barracuda, but it still holds its own, and I was able to find the Hitachi hard drive for a fair bit cheaper than the Barracuda 2TB. As a man who likes to live dangerously, I took a gamble on a power supply with purchasing an open box Rosewell Hive 750 watt modular unit that was very discounted. I admit I lucked out tremendously with it, as the box came with everything, including the unit, the cables, the manual, and the screws, and the power supply performed as expected. The only drawback of the unit is that the fan was louder than usual, but the PSU shroud in the case dampens the noise quite a bit, and the noise isn't very audible. I knew straight away from the moment that I decided on doing this build that I was going to use the Cougar MX330G due to it having great airflow and a glass window for a good price. Then I saw the MX330G Air, which depending on sales is $5 to $10 more than the MX330G, and for that $5 to $10, it's essentially the same case, but it comes with 3 blue LED 120mm fans, which I immediately chose that one once I saw it and haven't regretted it. I really enjoyed this build overall, and I took my time to make sure that it looked somewhat neat. I'm overall pretty terrible at cable management, but I tried really hard on this one to make it look at least nice. I even added a Fantex RGB strip to the top to add some bling to the build. I stress tested the computer by running Prime 95 and Furmark at the same time for a while, and saw that the CPU peaked at 75 degrees Celsius and the GPU at 80 degrees Celsius without any crashing during the long test, which I attribute to the MX330G's great airflow and the Air variant having better than average case fans. I was surprised by the fans being quiet at idle and having high airflow at high load, although they are somewhat loud when they're at high load, but I can excuse that when the 3 fans cost $5 to $10 total. I ended up selling the computer to someone locally, and he has been enjoying the computer a lot so far. I'm thrilled that not only did someone get a decent computer for a good price during these GPU-starved times, but also that I got to build a computer, get rid of extra parts I had lying around, and make some extra cash, which I'm gonna spend on, what else? Buying more computer parts. Thank you very much for somehow getting to the very end of this crappy video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.